welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here to bring to you a brand new session of Words Are Bridges, a new series and initiative by the Jaipur Literature Festival in partnership with HarperCollins India.
Words are bridges.
शब्द सेतु हैं।
अल्फाज दिलों को और इंसानियत को जोड़ने का एक अजीम और तरीन पुल है।
വാക്കുകൾ പാലങ്ങളാണ്.
लफ्ज़ च सवेरी कदल तारा
वहीनतुन
आखर हमार मेल सन आखर हमार जोड़
हक्तै हमैनार हेतु
हक्थाय रॉक याखराइस
थुही इनको गैलासियाम तु अनि
अजरहाना आपापी किसले
ग्राउथाइनिंग याउक्राई
शब्द सेतु हुन
शब्दां दी सांस।
Words Are Bridges will celebrate language and the magic of language and the power of literature in translation. In this season, we will be talking to writers and speakers writing across Indian languages. And with that, we hope to bring you the joy and pleasure that is great literature and great conversation. But before we begin, I would like to invite Namita Gokhale, co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival, Sanjoy Roy, producer of the Jaipur Literature Festival, and my colleague Udyan Mitra from HarperCollins India to invite all of you.
We are lovers of books and literature. Words travel, ideas travel, stories travel. We welcome you to our new digital platform, Words Are Bridges. This important initiative looks at the act of translation as a mediation between languages and culture, between time and place. India's unique literary landscape, with its rich diversity and its absolutely staggering multilinguality, will be explored through a fascinating series of sessions that bring together writers, translators, and commentators. We at JLF are delighted to partner with HarperCollins India to expand our horizons of reading as we listen in to the original text and also examine its resonance through translations. Thank you.
Stories provide us place, context, culture, and tradition. In India, with our vast diversity of linguistic traditions, we often don't have access to each other's content. The Jaipur Literature Festival brings to you Words Are Bridges to explore translation and writing from across India in association with HarperCollins.
At HarperCollins, we've always watched with delight as words build bridges, as the books that we publish introduce readers to worlds often unknown to them. This is especially true of our translations, which wonderfully connect cultures through the written word. Today, unfortunately, readers and writers are feeling more isolated than ever before. JLF's Words Are Bridges is a lovely initiative to connect us all over again. We at HarperCollins are really excited to be part of this program.
Thank you, Namita, Sanjoy, and Udyan. Our session today is Written in Tears, Arupa Patangia Kolita in conversation with Ranjita Biswas and Aruni Kashyap. Arupa Patangia Kolita's fiction is a chronicle of the disturbing and searing history of decades-long aggression and hate that plagued Assam. In conversation with her translator Ranjita Biswas, alongside author Aruni Kashyap, she speaks about the surreally beautiful landscape of Assam, the conflict that scarred it, and the role of a writer in fraught times. Arupa Patangia Kolita has been reckoned as one of the most powerful voices in contemporary Assamese literature. She is a bold and acutely aware chronicler of her time. A teacher of English literature, she has also translated Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye into Assamese. She has published more than 15 books besides numerous works in vernacular magazines, and many of them have been translated into different Indian languages and English. The English translation of her novel, Philani, was shortlisted for the Crossword Book Award. She has received the Bharatiya Bhasha Parishad Award in 1995, the 1998 Katha Award, the Sahitya Sanskriti Award in 2009, Lekhika Samaharo Sahitya Award in 2011, and most recently, the 2014 Sahitya Academy Award. Ranjita Biswas is a journalist, author, and translator based in Kolkata. She has won the Katha and other awards for her translation of fiction from Assamese to English. She has received the Best Translation Prize, English, from the Sahitya Academy in 2017 for the book Written in Tears. She also writes travelogues, short stories, and children's fiction. Aruni Kashyap is a translator and writer. He is the author of His Father's Disease and Other Stories, Noikho Etia Duroit in Assamese, and The House with a Thousand Stories. He won the Charles Wallace India Trust Scholarship for Creative Writing to the University of Edinburgh, and his poetry collection, There Is No Good Time for Bad News, was a finalist for the 2018 Marsh Hawk Press Poetry Prize and 2018 Four-Way Book Levis Award in Poetry. He is an assistant professor of creative writing at the University of Georgia, Athens. Please do comment and ask questions by typing them in the comment section. Do follow our handles JLF LitFest on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to be updated about our upcoming sessions. And in case any of you drop off due to bandwidth issues, don't worry. You can find us again on YouTube on our channel Jaipur LitFest. Ladies and gentlemen, the session today is Written in Tears. Arupa Patangia Kolita in conversation with Ranjita Biswas and Aruni Kashyap.
Mazniha চহৰত আহি সোমোৱা আধা পুৰা বাছখন সেই মানুহ বৰ্বৰ আদিম যুগলৈ ঘূৰি যোৱা ঠাইখণ্ডৰ পৰা দেৱবাবুৰ গেৰেজলৈ আহিছিল নিজৰ অধিকাৰ নিজা ৰাজ্য নিজৰ আনৰ ওপৰত আধিপত্য বিচাৰি জনগোষ্ঠীটোৱে বন্ধৰ আহ্বান দিছিল দূৰৈৰ পৰা বাছ ভৰ্তি মানুহলৈ বাছখন পুৱাই পুৱাই বন্ধ ঘোষণা কৰা এলেকাটোত সোমাইছিল সেইদিনা ৰাতিপুৱাটো ৰ'দেৰে উজ্জ্বল আছিল উজ্জ্বল ৰ'দত বাছখন মাজ ৰাস্তাতে দাও দাওকৈ জ্বলিছিল এটা প্ৰাণীও বাছখনৰ পৰা ওলাব পৰা নাছিল দুৱাৰ খিৰিকী মাৰি পেট্ৰল ঢালি বাছখনত জুই দিয়া হৈছিল বাছৰ ভিতৰত হোৱা দোৱা লাগিছিল জুই নলগাকৈ গাঢ় বিষাক্ত ধোঁৱাত শিশুবোৰ মাক দেউতাকৰ কোলাতে উশাহ ল'ব নোৱাৰি থৰঙা হৈ গৈছিল বাছ ভৰ্তি মানুহ আধা পুৰা মৰাশ হৈছিল আক্ৰমণকাৰীবোৰ পলাইছিল ৰাস্তাত ধোঁৱাই ধোঁৱাই বাছখন জ্বলি আছিল পলোৱাৰ আগতে বন্দুক লোৱাকিটাই বাছখনলৈ লক্ষ্য কৰি ধাৰাসাৰ গুলিয়াইছিল এজন বাছ যাত্ৰীও বাছি যোৱা নাছিল পুলিচ মিলিটাৰী প্ৰশাসন জুই নুমুৱা গাড়ী আহে মানে বাছখনৰ ভিতৰৰ আটাইবোৰ মানুহ কিছুমান বিকৃত মৰাশ হৈছিল মাজনিশা আধা পুৰা বাছখন চহৰত আহি সোমালহি
That bus, which had entered the town at midnight, aiming at Dev-Babu's garage, had come from a place that had reverted to an uncivilized age. The community that wanted its own state wanted to establish its right over the others and had called for a band. The bus had entered the area early in the morning. It was full of passengers. The morning was bright and sunny. Under that bright light, the bus was burning furiously. Not a single passenger could escape from the bus. The windows and door of the bus were shut tight, and a can of petrol was emptied on the vehicle. Even before the fire caught properly, the poisonous gas asphyxiated the little children in the lap of their parents. On the lonely road, the bus burned unattended. Before fleeing the scene, the attackers had aimed their rifles at the bus. The bullets came in torrents. Of course, not a single passenger survived. By the time the police, military, administrators, and fire brigade vans arrived, the people inside the bus were dead, their bodies only clumps of burnt flesh. Yes, the half-burned bus entered the town at midnight.
Thank you for joining me today. Arupa Patangia Kolita and Ranjita Biswas, two wonderful, literary icons from Assam, and I'm very, very privileged to actually moderate this conversation. I must say at the outset that I call Arupa Patangia Kolita Arupa Jathai because she knew my mother since my mother was a kid, and she knew me since I was a kid. She's from Golaghat, and one of the first novels I ever read was actually by Arupa Patangia Kolita, and that novel was called Oyananta, her first full-length novel. And I was in class 5 or 6 when the novel came out. We used to live in a small locality called Pragjyotishpur in Jalukbari, and I remember getting a copy fresh off the press because Arupa Jathai's brother-in-law used to be our neighbor, and he gave us a copy, and I finished reading it in one day. So, Orpadathai, your novel Oyananto, actually that is the first novel I actually ever read of any author in my life. Of course, before that I had read my mother's novel in manuscript form, but that was the first full-length printed novel I read for the first time in my life. So I'm going to actually share this. I wanted to start with this information today, that it was such a pleasure to read Oyananto, and I have never forgotten the character Binapani. It is a character that I will never ever forget. Today's panelist needs no introduction, and Arupa Patangia Kolita is one of the most prominent novelists of Assam. Ranjita Biswas is one of the most well-known translators from Assam. And Ranjita Biswas has been translating Patangia's work for a very, very long time. And I wanted to actually privilege the translator today. So my first question is going to be for Ranjita Baido. Ranjita Baido, why did you start translating Arupa Patangia Kolita's work? What really drew you into her work? What do you think is so exceptional about that you have been translating her novels and novellas for a very long time, because it's been a association of lifetime, isn't that right?
Yes, Aruni, thank you for asking that. And also, I'm also very privileged to be a part of this conversation. Aruni, I am glad that you talked about Oyananto. I was so impressed by the novel. I actually suggested that it can be translated into English, which was translated to Dawn by Kali for Women, which became Zuban afterwards. So while reading that book, I found, not only it talks about the landscape of Assam, everything, she always brings in lots of similes from, flowers, birds, fishes, etc., whenever she wants to talk about something. But as you say, the character of Binapani, in her own way, she was brought up in a very traditional household, and she was married, she had children, but she never lost her voice, and at last, it was pre-independence Assam she started with, and I think when the book ended, it was just India had attained independence, and that voice to me seemed to be a voice of the new country. And I found that she never gave in, when she said, when her sons come to bring her, because she went away from home to stay with one of her friends, I think, or a daughter of a friend. She said, you come to me, don't expect just because I'm a mother, I'll give in. You are also part of my life, but I'm me. That is what actually attracted me about this book.
Arupa Patangia, could you like to talk a little bit about Oyananto? What were the things that you were thinking about when you wrote Oyananto? Because I know that Oyananto is still a very popular novel in Assam. People still read it widely.
Yes. Aruni, I went to American Research Center in Hyderabad for my research work. I did my research work, PhD thesis in Perles Bucket. And there, in the SSRC library, I read a lot of books by the feminist writers and feminism. And there, I've learned to look at my past, my acquaintances, my town in a different perspective. And I read those books, lots of books, which books I cannot dream of getting here in Assam. And there I have got a new light, and I begin to analyze the persons, the women that I met in my life. And then, I was born and brought up in Golaghat, the small town in Upper Assam, and it's a very culturally rich heritage. The town, it is very proud of having a rich cultural heritage. And I met a lot of colorful characters, and the virgin nature, it was splendid. So it was still now Golaghat is very beautiful, but when I was a young kid, its beauty was really unparalleled. And amidst those unparalleled beauty, I place my women characters, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my aunt, all their lives. I have learned to analyze in a completely new light. Then I begin to write Oyananto. And you know, all the characters are picked up from reality. Of course, this is a distinctive character of my works. I picked up everything from reality. But you know, it is not documentation, it is not photographic reality. I carry those characters inside me for a long period, then I give birth to a new character set. And in Oyananto, I have portrayed a number of women characters which are historically alive and which are historically correct. For example, that film actress, that beautiful film actress, I met her. I saw her daughters. They were my friends. And I wrote about her. I wrote about Bogi. She was also a real character. And I portrayed the character of my great-grandmother, Josuda. So it is based on my great-grandmother. She was a wonderful lady. And she was a good storyteller. Very often I used to sit with her during moonlight and we used to hear stories from her. And while telling story, she used to sing some folklore. She used to sing some folk songs. And those things, it gives some very important reflection in my mind. I cannot forget those lovely folk songs. And you can see the whole novel I write about those folk songs. And you know, my Assam is a beautiful country with beautiful women, and there are distinctive ornaments and clothes. And in this novel, I have used ornaments as motifs. There are description of clothes, description of ornaments, description of trees and flowers, and birds also. So in this way, I have tried to write about the characters I knew, but it completely in a newfound light. And those characters, particularly, I want to show the strength of women, particularly in the character of Bogi. So Bogi, she is a character which was neglected. And later on, I can find that Bina, she finds hope in her life through Bogi, and she is regenerated by Bogi's strength. So Bogi is the symbol of the strength of the neglected. And in this way, I have written about Oyananto, and it is about women, about our society. And another point, you know, the novel is based on the independence struggle, the struggle for independence during that period. And the whole country fights for independence. And at that period, my Bogi, my Jyoti, then my Bina, all of them, they are in a cage. So there is a contrast. The background is different, but my women, they are in a cage trying to fly. At last, we can find that Bina, she is successful in coming out of the cage of the patriarchal society.
Yes.
So this is done.
Thank you so much. That is a beautiful, note that you have made on Dawn on Oyananto. I want to take a change gears here, and I wanted to come back to the contemporary reality of Assam. You know, Ranjita Biswas, she translated Written in Tears by putting together a selected series of novellas. But you have been writing about the insurgency in Assam for a very, very long time. You have written about it in the form of short stories, in the form of novellas, which we call Upanyahika in Assamese. You have also explored it from a gendered lens in your novel Falani, which again Ranjita Biswas has translated. But why do I see this very sharp turn in your fiction, which is about the realities of Assam, the terror that the people who have suffered the terror in Assam, when not many writers were actually writing about these things. You started writing them quite you and a few other writers started writing them from a very, very early stage, from the late 90s, if I'm not wrong, when it was many people were even not exploring these themes in Assamese literature. So what made you actually think about this? And I know that you lived in Tongla, taught in Tongla College, which was one of the worst hit areas of the insurgency. So maybe you would like to talk a little bit about that. What really was the backdrop of Written in Tears and many other novels and novellas and short stories about the same theme, which is insurgency, that are yet to be translated?
Answer is very simple. So insurgency, violence, tragedy in the lives of women, these are the dominant themes of my works, and these incidents are also picked up from reality. So I worked in Tangla College for long 40 years, and I have selected that place in order to see life from a very close quarter. Yes, I have seen life from a very close quarter in Tangla. So while living in Tangla, I have seen insurgency from a very close quarter. And I was a lecturer, and I always deal with my students. And there are many students who are the worst sufferer of insurgency. As a teacher, I have the chance to have a look into their lives from a very close point. And I had several incidents of insurgency which still used to seize me. To remember the principal of our college, Dr. Ganesh Soria, he was shot dead in front of my college gate. Still I remember that dead body of that man who was our principal. A grenade attack was there in our staff room. Thank God, I've survived. And I was a victim of extortion. One day, so today I want to open up. So one day, I was in the kitchen, and suddenly I can hear a rattling sound. And when I look back, a young man, shabbily dressed, he entered into my kitchen, and he asked money from me in a very coercive voice. And he addresses me as "you woman." So I'm used to respect. I'm used to affection. I have never seen such a derogatory address in my life. He was a terrorist and he wanted money from us. So there are so many incidents, and I can see that many of my students, they died due to insurgency. I can see my students, they suffer. And Aruni, whenever there is a bad time, whenever there is a storm, the worst sufferers are women. Women are the soft target. They suffer a lot. In Falani, I have written about those women who suffer due to insurgency, and their lives reflect the violent time that I have witnessed. And that terrorism is not something that I have to fantasize. Terrorism is a phenomena which I can touch, which I feel.
So much for that wonderful description of Ananta and also your reasons for writing about the insurgency in Assam. I want to switch gears and come back to Ranjita Biswas, and I wanted to ask her, and we don't have a lot of time, so I would ask the panelists to be brief now. Ranjita Baido, when you translate these stories and novellas of Arupa Patangia Kolita. Is it hard for you to translate these because they are about some very brutal and very sad realities in Assam, and which is a place that you so love and have spent some time there? How is your experience while translating these fiction from Assam?
Actually, I won't say they were painful. They touched me because frankly, I was there during the whole period from 79 to 88, 89, when the agitation or Andolan was going through. And every day we are going through lockdown now, but in Assam, there were days and days of, burned. So, and the stories came out from the papers. Now, the brief for this particular book, written in tears, was to find stories, from Arupa's vast collection, which talks about the conflict and the pain that, despite the beautiful landscape of Assam, this violence was going on for so long and common people suffered. And as Arupa said, mostly women. So I selected the stories from her different collections. And for me, I think they were real human stories. I mean, if you live a life, you cannot have everything only beautiful and pretty, right?
Absolutely.
We also have sadness and war always, or conflict, whatever you say. And I also find Arupa's many of the stories, their stories, the local might be Assam or Brahmaputra Valley, but it can resonate anywhere where people are suffering, in different, whether you talk about Kosovo, whether you talk about even, places like Cambodia, when I went to see the valley where all the, so you can, you can relate to them. And for me, if I have been able to bring out some of the essence of Arupa, what she wanted to say, that is my, I think, my achievement. I won't say achievement, my satisfaction, sorry. The other thing, I want to make a small correction. Felony, I did not translate felony.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah, felony was done by one of my
Deepika Phukon. It is translated by Deepika Phukon. Yes.
Yeah, she was my professor in Shillong. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry about the confusion. Ranjita Bedu, I have a quick follow-up question, very short and quick. I wanted you to quickly tell us at least 2-3 challenges of translating Arupa Patangia's fiction, because her language is very, very different than most other Assamese writers. Arupa Patangia uses the kind of language that we use in rural spaces. She uses idioms that are lost. She almost archives them in her fiction. They're very hard to actually translate, not just into standard, Assamese, to explain to a person who doesn't understand it, even in Assamese, but also hard and challenging to do it in English. So how do you approach that? How do you end up translating these proverbs, the idioms, the lush language that she uses in her fiction? And a lot of the words, a lot of the descriptive words, a lot of these are not anymore used also, but are used probably by an old woman somewhere who is still sort of preserving the language through her practice. So how do you approach that?
Aruni, one thing I want to share, I was brought up in Upper Assam, not very far from Golaghat, in Dibrugarh. And I studied firstly in a local school in a colony of Dibrugarh Medical College with the Assamese medium school. And I, my mom, my mother, my grandmother, they used a lot of, this local kind of phrase, So my ears were tuned to that. Later, when I started translating, I tried to remember, but I personally think, as you say, many of the words, many of the similes she uses, Arupa uses, those have to be, for this reason, I think the writer and the translator both have to be very much in conjunction together. Now, at the moment, I live in Calcutta, but I'm constantly in touch with Arupa to, check out. And frankly, when I was doing Oyananta, I went and stayed in her house for 2 days in Tongla, just to check, if what I'm writing, because I'm not from the village. I have been brought up in urban Ambia. situation. So many of the things I might be writing wrong. But I think Arupa, somehow I feel she trusts that I'll, check with her or bring out that she can tell her best, because I have done quite a lot of her stories.
Okay, all right. I think we are going to end this session with a very short reading from one of the passages the writer has chosen, and that will be complemented with a reading by the translator in the English translation. So please, you may go ahead and read the Assamese version right now.
I'm going to read a paragraph from my story, The Half-Burned Bus. So in Assamese, the title of the story is Sohorot Mazlikha Humua Adhapura Garikhon. So the half-burned bus has entered into the town. So I want to read a small paragraph. So in this story, the half-burned bus, it is the symbol of violence that wrecked the whole world. And I want to bring to an end to this half-burned bus. The half-burned bus, wherever it goes, it destroys everything. Destroys the beauty, destroy the flowers, and there's a wreck in its wake. So let me read out a small paragraph. Asal Bipod Hole, and Assamese, it's a very soft language, very beautiful language. Particularly, there are some words which really carry meaning. Without understanding the meaning, you can understand its connotation. Asal Bipod Hole, সেই দুই ঠেঙৰ ওপৰত অহা ভয়াবহ জীৱবোৰ চৰাই গুলিয়াদি এফালৰ পৰা গুলিয়াই মানুহ মাৰি যাব এফালৰ পৰা ঘৰ জ্বলাই যাব ঘৰ পুৰা গৰুৱে সেন্দুৰীয়া মেঘ দেখিলেও ভয় খোৱাৰ দৰে চহৰখনৰ মানুহবোৰে দৰা পাৰ্টিয়ে কইনাৰ ঘৰত আহি ফটকা ফুটোৱা আৱাজ পালেও কাণ থিয় কৰে ক'তবা কি হ'ল চহৰখন মানুহবোৰ সকলোবোৰৰ মাজত চলি থাকে পথাৰত ধান গাখীৰতি হয় হিমলু ফুলে নৈখনত ৰূপালী মাছবোৰে খেলা কৰে আম কঁঠাল কমলা লেচু দুঁ খাই লাগে নজুন ওলাই পূৰ্ণিমাৰ জোনাকত গোটেইখন ধোৱাই যায় বিহুত ঢোল বাজে পূজাত ঢাক বাজে বৈশাগুত চিফুং বাজে হাত বহে So amidst the tragedy, amidst the violence, life goes on. Life goes on. And in my extremely lovely state, in spite of everything, life goes on. Life goes on, and here you can see the description of the moonlight, the description of the silvery fishes and the river. Now Ranjita is going to read it in English.
The real danger is heralded by the ones with two legs. They could shoot down everyone in sight as if people were birds. They could put the houses on fire if they fancied. So the people remained fearful, like cattle after escaping from a burned down shed, and are now so scared they fear even the hint of a red cloud. They prick their ears instantly, even at the sound of crackers from a wedding party arriving at the bride's house. Has anything happened? Is there trouble somewhere? They worry. But then life goes on. The rice stalks ripen in the field. The simolu trees flower. The silver fish play in the river. Trees of ripe mangoes and jackfruit, orange and lychee, bow with the weight of the fruits. The new moon appears, the full moon washes over the countryside, the dhols beats welcome the bihu, the dhak resounds with the puja, the siphon flute is heard. Men with the farm produce congregate in the weekly hut as always. Yes, life goes on.
Thank you, Ranjita Biswas. Thank you, Arupa Patangia Kolita, for this lovely panel.
Aruni, I want to speak a few words, Ranjita and myself, we share the same kind of childhood, the same cultural ambience. We have shared the same place. That is why there is a good rapport between us. So her translation is successful because she understands my childhood, my life, my background very well. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know, I was when I was listening to this, I remember that in a line where you describe where the rice grains are ripening. Ranjita Biswas's translation says the rice grains are ripening, but in Assamese we say, you know, the rice grains are becoming gakhiroti, which means as they grow up, they form this milky liquid that solidifies into rice. And you know, a few days ago, I was writing a short story and I wanted to say the same thing, but my short story was in English and I used the phrase, the rice grains are ripening in the field. But I kept on missing that how the rice grains can actually grow by first becoming milky, forming the liquid inside that shell, and that becomes hard. So I think there is so much to be gained in translation, but at the same time, there is so much to be lost in translation. And I hope, you know, because of the hard work of translators like Ranjita Biswas and many others, I think people will also be encouraged to learn Assamese, learn the original languages, and try to, you know, take the pleasure of reading writers from Assam, writers from different languages in the original language, because there is so much there in the language itself. And Arupa Patangia's fiction is a testament to that, who has documented insurgency, who has documented some of the most brutal realities, most urgent realities of Assam, and brought it out for the wider world. And thank you to both of you and for doing what you are doing and keep doing. And I'm looking forward to read a lot more fiction from Arupa Patangia, and I'm looking forward for Ranjita Biswas to go and camp at her house and translate those fictions. Thank you so much for participating today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful session, Arupa, Ranjita, and Aruni. And thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. If you've enjoyed the session, please do share it with your friends and on your social media pages. Do send us feedback. We value it highly. And we look forward to seeing you next week.